Baseball is back, baby. And joining us right now to talk about that on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline, Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop, is Jesse Rogers from ESPN, covers Major League Baseball, especially the White Sox and the Cubs. So Ramie knows Jesse very, very well.
Yeah.
Jesse, thanks for joining us here in Sacramento. Your time is much appreciated. Let's talk with the pitch clock. Shaved off 26 minutes from spring training games, Jesse. Is that a big deal or no big deal?
For those of us watching it, whether it be in the press box, the stands, on TV, I think it's a big deal for the players as well. I mean, I've talked to a lot of players, and there's just a dual reaction. Yes, they like getting home earlier. They like the game moving. However, there are some players that are concerned that the regular season is much different than spring training or the minor leagues in terms of intensity, in terms of meaningfulness. And, you know, there's going to be weather conditions, high leverage situations, unforeseen moments, and they'd like a little bit more leeway. You know, they'd like a little bit more umpire discretion, maybe an extra timeout or disengagement from the rubber, and they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. So I think we're sort of still in uncharted territory starting tomorrow. Things probably will level off over time, but I know some players are a little bit worried, you know, a little dust in my eyes, and I already used my timeout. What am I supposed to do at the plate, right? So there's safety issues, there's competing issues, competitive issues. But in all, I think everybody in uniform and outside of uniform likes the idea of a quicker game. But in practice, there may be some bumps.
We also have the bigger bases, the shift ban. Do you think the pitch clock, though, is the one that's going to take the most adjustment for players and coaches, and the one that'll have the most impact on the game and the way that it looks?
Yes, definitely, because when you talk about the shift, it is what it is, right? I mean, you can only stand on the infield, 2 on each side. Whatever happens after that happens. But and unless you violate the shift restrictions, you're not going to be penalized, right? Well, a pitcher or hitter can be penalized for delaying the game too much. So I definitely think that's the thing to get adjusted to the most. Now, if you talk to a catcher, these guys, I talked to the Braves catcher, the Cubs catcher. I've talked to a lot of catchers during spring training. Your old guy, Sean Murphy, and they really are, try to sort of streamline the way they set up and get and release the ball to second base even more than normal. They know there's going to be an increase in stolen base attempts. We saw that in spring training. I think it went up to like 2.6 a game compared to 1.7 in terms of attempts. The success rate went up from 73% to 77%. So other than catchers, I think players will adjust, but I think it is going to be a task for pitchers and catchers, obviously, in terms of negating that running game. But first and foremost is certainly the pitch clock and adjusting to it.
Talking baseball, season as opening day is upon us tomorrow with Jesse Rogers from ESPN. Jesse, lots of projections have the Giants finishing 3rd or 4th in the NL West. Any disagreement with that?
No, I don't. I'm a little bit down on the Giants compared to previous years. They always seem to surprise. But I think if you're buying stock in the NL West, a lot of people are buying stock on the Diamondbacks and not so much the Giants. Maybe they like it that way. They have, surprised in the past. Even last year wasn't horrendous, wasn't great, but wasn't horrendous. But most people are picking the Diamondbacks to be that kind of team that people like. Here in the Midwest, the Cubs are getting a little juice in terms of maybe they can make a little bit of a jump. I think the Diamondbacks and Cubs are on that similar path, which maybe you downgrade the Giants with, but there's no doubt the Rockies are going to finish in last. They're just awful. They're no good. So yeah, 3rd or 4th is probably the best the Giants can do.
The discouraging thing, Jesse, is that you look at what the Dodgers and the Padres have built, and obviously the Dodgers bankroll is unlimited, and they can add to what they've already built. I think some folks look at it and go, when can we compete with those two teams and those two payrolls right there? Is it as bleak as it might look on paper when you're talking about the rest of the teams in the NL West, looking up at the Padres and the Dodgers?
Maybe it is for the Rockies. They're just in a different category, I
Sure.
feel like. The Giants are a pretty well-run organization, right? We know that. But I think what happened in the offseason is a reminder that you really build a contender through drafting, trading, and developing. My point being, free agency is a crapshoot. Whether you get a guy and he fails and he doesn't succeed as much as you think, or you don't even get the guy, like which happened with the Giants in a couple moments there. So free agency should cap off your rebuild. It shouldn't be part of the rebuild, to be honest. And it really was going to be part of the rebuild in a way. I don't know if I'm making sense to you guys, but but my point is, look, the Padres are in a moment in time here. That doesn't mean it's going to last, right? They've got some guys that are going to be free agents in a couple years, all that stuff. Yes, they locked up Machado. The Dodgers, kind of like I said about the Rockies on one end, are in a bit of a different category. They always seem to be able to spend. But remember, their success also is based on the draft and development as well. It's not just about acquiring Mookie Betts and other guys and Freddie Freeman. It is about their foundation. So I feel like the Giants do it for the most part, have a foundation. They just have to develop. And then, yes, they do have to hit on some free agents. I guess what I'm saying is it can look bleak, but in a year it doesn't have to. And if you had gotten Aaron Judge, it probably would not have looked as bleak as it does. You just had that weird off season where you swung and missed on a couple guys there. But I still think contending is about drafting, trading, and developing. Free agency is a crapshoot in all manners, whether you get a guy or you don't get a guy.
Jesse, last one for you today. And again, thanks for the time. I'm going to really challenge you with this one. What is the most optimistic thing you can say about the A's as we get ready for their season?
That they tend to have dips, and then after the dip, they do have a rise, right? We've seen that under Billy Beane over the years and the people under him. That, yes, they've had their dips, but then they have a little rise. They're certainly in a dip, right? The Nationals are in a dip, but both those teams, I think, have proven to be decent organizations, one that doesn't spend it all. I'm just talking from a development standpoint. We've seen the Oakland A's develop and contend somewhat at times without spending any money, and then they go trade all these good players. So I think the best thing I could say is every dip is followed by a sort of a decent rise, and you're due for a rise at some point here in the next couple of years.
Jesse, we thank you for the time again. We really appreciate it. Let's do this again soon, shall we?
Anytime, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jesse. There goes Jesse Rogers from ESPN, covers Major League Baseball, especially the White Sox and the Cubs for the worldwide leader. He was on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Hope for the